In June 1215, a group of nobles forced King John to affix the royal seal to the Magna Carta. That document mainly protected the rights of the nobles, but it also said that no free man shall be taken or imprisoned or disposed, except by the legal judgment of his peers, or by the law of the land. This is how it happened.
After the death of King Richard I in 1199, a ceremony is held to crown his brother John.
Do you swear to love and protect your people? Do you swear to see that true justice is carried out in your kingdom?
King John makes these promises with ease, but not sincerity. He cares only about his own power. Soon after becoming king, John prepares to sail to France. The French king, Philip II, is trying to capture parts of Europe across the English Channel that are under England's control.
King John calls on his barons to fight with him against France. He is following the feudal custom that when men are called upon by their overlord, they must either fight or pay for professional soldiers to fight in their place.
Many barons refuse to go, saying that their obligations don't extend to fighting across the English Channel. By 1204, King John has lost most of the land that England controlled in France. He blames the barons who didn't join him. At one baron's manor,
I have bad news.
What is it? Did King John raise our taxes again?
Worse, he's demanding that we surrender our son to him.
Why?
He's taking many nobles' sons hostage to punish the barons that didn't go to France with him.
But you gave him money to excuse you from battle.
Yes, but now he says it wasn't enough. He says there's a conspiracy against him.
Is there?
Many barons are upset. This king's taxes are high. He seizes people and property without regard to traditions and laws that have long protected the nobility.
He can't have our son.
Then he'll seize our lands and brand me an outlaw.
King John, who puts his own pleasure above his subjects' needs, also angers many peasants. The king loves to hunt, which he can do in the royal forest, but many peasants' farms and villages lie within those forests.
Look, smoke over on the edge of our neighbor's field.
Many peasants are running toward a burning hedge.
What's happening?
The king's warden and foresters are burning the hedges.
But we need those hedges from animals in the forest from eating our crops. Warden, why are you doing this?
How dare you question an officer of the king? Step aside. I must prepare for the king's hunt.
So that's why they're destroying our hedges, so animals in the forest can grow fat before the king's hunt.
Hush! If the warden hears you, he'll throw us in jail.
during the hunt, King John and his men trample what's left of the peasants' grain fields. John thinks nothing of the hunger that his actions will cause.
In 1205, Archbishop Walter dies. In 1207, the Pope names Stephen Langton to replace him. Langton thinks there should be a written contract between a king and his subjects. Troubled by King John's harsh rules, Langton gathers a group of nobles to discuss his ideas in August of 1213.
I've heard you wanted to help us settle our grievances with the king.
Yes, I do. What are they?
In the 14 years since John became king, he has taxed us more often than his father did during his entire 35-year rule.
He's greedy! He sold my daughter to a Frenchman for a high price!
Yes! John took my son, along with many other sons, and this is ridiculous.
There is no justice.
We must restore to England an orderly government under the law. Otherwise, there will be civil war.
I'm ready to fight. So am I.
And
so are we!
Hip, hip,
and
look at what I have here. It's the charter of Henry I, our king, from 1011 to 1035.
Langton describes the liberties granted in Henry's charter a century ago. Then,
this charter speaks of your right to stand up for what is rightfully yours. If you nobles act together, you can force King John to restore the charter.
On January 6, 1215, the barons present their demands.
We mean no disrespect. We only ask for our lawful rights, and you hear us out.
Force can only be met with force. We want you to reissue the charter granted by King Henry I.
John tries to control his anger. He knows that losing his temper could lead to a revolt.
Easter comes and goes without an answer. The barons and their men prepare to fight. When King John finds out, he sends William Marshall, one of his closest advisors, and along Archbishop Langton to meet them.
The king's desire is that your grievances be settled peaceably.
We too desire peaceably settlement. Do you have a list of reforms you want granted?
The rebels gave Marshal their list. It calls for the old laws and customs to be restored.
We trust that the king will immediately agree.
What if he doesn't?
Then we'll have no choice to seize his castles and lands.
Langton and Marshall take the list back to King John, who explodes in anger.
When the king refuses, the barons' demand civil war breaks out. The rebellious barons attack the royal castle at Northampton.
Stop! It's time for tea.
What?
After 15 days, they're driven back, but weeks later, the rebels take London. The city falls easily because its rich citizens, who have suffered under John's harsh rule, support the rebellion.
King John decides that he has to reach an agreement with the rebels. A meeting is set for June 15th at Runnymede, a meadow on the west side bank of Thames River.
As each side's army waits in the distance, the king and his men meet with the rebels.
King John goes into a tent set up for talks. Leaders from both sides follow him inside. After many objections, the king agrees to most of the barons' demands, and on June 15, 1215, affixes his royal seal. On June 19th, the two sides accept a formal written document, the Magna Carta. Archbishop Langton asks King John to place his hand on the Bible.
Do you, John, King of England, swear that the conditions of this charter shall be kept in good faith and without evil intent?
Then Langton gave a similar oath to the barons.
But King John had no intention of keeping his oath. He convinced Pope Innocent III to declare the charter null and void. As a result, civil war broke out again. France took advantage of the instability caused by the Civil War and tried to invade England.
In 1216, when King John died, the war was still undecided. To unite England against France, King John's advisors reused the Magna Carta in the name of the new King John's 9-year-old son, Henry III.
In time, the Magna Carta became part of the fundamental law of England. Its key principles are the rulers as well as ordinary people must obey the rule of law, and that free men have certain rights and liberties. These principles became part of the basic law of democratic countries around the world, including the United States.